Hercule Poirot stood by the window of his modest office, the daylight fading and casting a golden hue over the bustling streets of London below. His sharp eyes, usually so full of purpose, were now clouded with an unfamiliar indecision. He had received a letter that morning, an invitation to take on what was, perhaps, the most important case of his career, a case that had the potential to bring him unparalleled fame and success. Yet despite all the logical reasoning that urged him to accept, Poirot found himself unable to take that first step. The letter had been from an old friend, a person of high society and significant influence, Sir Reginald Harris, a renowned philanthropist, and the man behind some of London's most prestigious charitable organizations. Sir Reginald had written to Poirot, explaining that someone close to him had been threatened by a powerful and unseen enemy, an enemy who had been terrorizing Sir Reginald's family and colleagues for months. The situation had reached a critical point, and Sir Reginald had asked for Poirot's help in solving what seemed like an impossible puzzle. There had been no shortage of praise for Poirot's unparalleled intellect. Sir Reginald's letter spoke of a crime unlike any other, something so intricate, so cleverly devised, that even the police had failed to make any headway. Poirot was the last hope, the final chance to unmask this invisible assailant before the situation spiraled further out of control. The stakes were high, so high, in fact, that Poirot could feel the weight of the case bearing down on him, even without knowing all the details. At first glance, Poirot should have jumped at the opportunity. A case like this would be a triumph of intellect, a demonstration of his unmatched ability to untangle the most complex of webs. But something held him back. The more he thought about it, the more he questioned his initial instinct to accept. It wasn't the case itself that unsettled him. It wasn't the challenge or the promise of glory. No, it was something much deeper, something personal that made Poirot hesitant to step into this particular labyrinth. As the days passed, Poirot found himself pacing his office, wrestling with the decision. He had seen the darker side of human nature and had uncovered secrets that most people would rather keep buried. But this case felt different. It wasn't just about solving a crime. It was about stepping into a world where personal connections and emotions intertwined with logic and reason in a way that Poirot was not sure he could handle. He knew what it meant to solve a puzzle, to find the missing piece, but could he bring himself to confront a case where the stakes weren't just about solving a mystery, but about saving those he cared about? Poirot's mind drifted back to a conversation he had had many years ago with his dear friend, Captain Hastings. It had been a conversation about purpose, about what truly drove a man to dedicate his life to uncovering the truth. Poirot had always prided himself on his objectivity, on his ability to remain detached from the emotions that clouded others' judgment. He had always believed that he was above such things, that the pursuit of justice, of truth, was the only thing that mattered. But now, faced with this case, Poirot felt a creeping realization. Perhaps for the first time, he wasn't as objective as he thought. The relationship he had built over the years with Sir Reginald, the trust between them, made the situation more complex. It wasn't simply a matter of solving a crime. It was a matter of loyalty, of a bond that Poirot could not easily separate from the work he did. And that made him vulnerable in a way he had never allowed himself to be before. Poirot's thoughts were interrupted when Hastings entered the room, his presence as comforting as ever. The captain was a loyal companion, someone Poirot could always rely on to provide a grounded perspective. Hastings had known Poirot long enough to recognize when something was troubling his friend, and today Poirot's unease was unmistakable. "Poirot, you've been at this desk for hours. What is it that's bothering you?" Hastings asked, his voice gentle but insistent, and so Poirot embarked on what would become the most personal and emotionally fraught investigation of his career. The decision to take the case wasn't easy, but it had revealed something profound about Poirot himself. It reminded him that sometimes even the greatest detective must confront the complexity of human relationships and the weight of loyalty.